So today's topic is how stress changes our body. So Robert Sapolsky, a renowned neuroscientist and stress expert, states in his book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, that there is no such thing as an inherently stressful situation. Stress is not a quality of the environment, nor it is a quality of an individual. Stress is a transaction between the two. Bruce McEwen, a neuroscientist, states that stress is the spice of life. We need a certain amount of stress to remain healthy and to stay motivated and challenged. It's when stress becomes chronic or uncontrollable that is when it wreaks havoc on our health. In this 1 hour, I will elaborate on this concept, why we stress, what happens when we do so, and how an adaptive life saving response becomes a cause and potential amplifier for life devastating diseases. At the end, I will share with you science backed stress management techniques, so stay tuned till the end. After this, I will open the talk for questions. So, without further ado, let's start. Before that, let me introduce myself. I am a trained cancer immunologist and currently spending majority of my time doing science communication. Besides this meetup, I write 2 newsletters which are free to subscribe, and please do check out the details are here. We also have a science book meetup, and this month we will be discussing a book by Robert Sapolsky, which is Behave, the Biology of Humans at Our Best and Worst. This meetup will be held tomorrow, so if you are interested, do join there. So let's understand the evolution of diseases over time. This will help you understand the broad concept, why we should pay more attention to stress. 100 years ago, the diseases which were killing us were related to infections, either viral, bacterial, parasitic, or due to poor hygiene. Thanks to revolutionary advances in medicine and public health, our patterns of diseases have changed. Now we die of totally bizarre diseases that never used to exist in this planet. Diseases like heart failure, diabetes, hypertension. This is a very novel realm we have entered in terms of making sense of which of us are sick and which are healthy. Take this scenario. 20,000 years ago, you are some 20-year-old hunter-gatherer and you have screwed a big time. You have made a major medical mistake. You have just eaten some reed buck riddled with anthrax, and the medical outcomes are absolutely clear. You have got just 3 days life expectancy. These days, as a 20-year-old, you make a major medical mistake. You decide a healthy diet consists of lots of red meat and saturated fat, and maybe drink every other day or two. And it's not clear what the outcome's going to be. You may be dead in your grave at 50, or you may be running marathons with your grandkids when you are 85. And this is the central question for westernized medicine, is why someone lasts up to 50 and some to 85. Some of it has to do with the nuts and bolts of biology, what your liver does to cholesterol, what level of certain enzymes you have in your fat cells, whether you have any congenital weakness in the walls of your heart, blood vessels, and stuff like that. But some of it has to do with questions nobody ever had to ask before in medicine. Totally, like what is your personality, psychological status, social status, the amount of emotional stress you have experienced over the years, whether you have someone's shoulder to cry on when a stressor occurs. So, diseases of slow accumulation of damage from lifestyle over time, like obesity, hypertension, atherosclerosis, diabetes, are predominantly can be caused by or made worse by stress. There has been a revolution in medicine concerning how we think about the diseases that now afflict us. It involves recognizing interaction between body and the mind. Can I request please mute yourself? Guys, please mute yourself. It will not disturb the presentation. At the end, we will open it for everyone for questions. So there is a revolution in medicine, and now we are concerning more we are concerning more of this mind-body interactions. So it is about the role of stress in making some of us vulnerable to disease, the ways some of us cope with stressors, and the critical notion that you cannot really understand a disease in vacuum, but rather only in the context of the person suffering with that disease. Let's take this example. So this is a great example to understand mind-body connection. Think or get the visual cue of laughter from these images. Once you see these images, you will start smiling, then laughing maybe. And this is how your body responds to it. So you are laughing, your body is releasing endorphins, which are decreasing your cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which is then reducing your blood pressure, controlling your breathing, uplifting your mood, and thus reducing the anxiety. So this happens just by a simple cue of making your lips into the smile mode. Just make that and you will feel happy after it. Another example of this mind-body connection is start just hyperventilating consciously. And after a while, your body will get a cue of anxiousness and you will start feeling sick. On the other hand, if you are breathing deeply, you will feel calm. So this is how our body takes the cues from the external environment, and what we are thinking, our body is responding to that. Now let's understand stress. For animals like zebras, the most upsetting things in life are acute physical crises. You are a zebra, a lion has just leapt out and ripped your stomach open. You have managed to get away, and now you have to spend the next hour evading the lion as it continues to stalk you. Or perhaps just as stressfully, you are that lion, half starved, and you had better be able to sprint across the savannah at the top of speed and grab something to eat, or you won't survive. These are extremely stressful events and they demand immediate physiological adaptation if you are going to live. There is another category, social and psychological disruptions. Essentially, we humans live well enough and are smart enough to generate all sorts of stressful events purely in our heads. Viewed from the perspective of the evolution of the animal kingdom, sustained psychological stress is a recent invention, mostly limited to humans and other social primates. We can experience wildly strong emotions linked to mere thoughts. A large body of evidence suggests that stress-related disease emerge predominantly out of the fact that we do often activate a psychological system that has evolved for responding to emergencies. But we turn it on for months on end, worrying about mortgages, relationships, and promotions and whatnot. So I hope you are somewhat convinced that stress when activated for long periods is bad. But now let me elaborate on this and give you some scientific explanation for that. Let's start off with definition. To understand stress, you need to know homeostasis. Hopefully you have heard me explaining this before. It is one of the cool concepts of our physiology. Okay, if you have forgot the concept of homeostasis, don't stress. It is an idea that the body has an ideal level of oxygen, an ideal degree of temperature, and so on. All these variables are maintained in a balance, the state in which all sorts of physiological measures are being kept at the optimum level. Anything in the outside world that knocks you out of this homeostatic balance is a stressor, and the stress response is what your body does to reestablish homeostasis. A stressor can also be anticipation of that happening. So for 99% of beasts on this planet, stress is 3 minutes of scream response, but not for us. For us humans, we think and can start the stress response. Our human experience is replete with psychological stressors, a far cry from the physical world of hunger, injury, blood loss, or temperature extremes. Try to explain global warming to Hippo, and it has no idea why you are getting upset about. That's the critical point that we do. critical point of the whole thing is that we turn it on the same stress response as zebras running from chasing lion, and we do it for purely psychological response. It is this generality of the stress response that is the most surprising. So the thing is, your body comes up with different solution for different situations. Like when you feel cold, you shiver. When you are hot, you sweat. So why in every case of stressful situation, the same stress response is activated? So this was asked by Hans Selye. He is the godfather of stress physiology. And this field exists only because this man was both a very insightful scientist and lame at handling the lab rats. So in 1930, Selye was just beginning his work as endocrinology. So endocrinology is a study of hormones on its the effect of hormones on the body. So he started testing an ovarian extract on rats. In this picture, you can see Selye holding a rat. So he attempted to inject his rats daily, but apparently not with a great display of dexterity. So he was dropping them, then chasing those rats to inject, miss them again, and repeat again. So this happened every day for months. After a couple of months, he examined the rats, and all of his rats developed peptic ulcers. They displayed greatly enlarged adrenal glands. Adrenal glands are where the two stress hormones are generated, and they have shrunken immune system. Selye was delighted. Being a good scientist, he examined the control group also. So the control group was the rats which were injected with the saline only. So saline is 0.7% of sodium chloride solution. So just water. So to his surprise, control rats also showed the similar changes. They also had ulcers, they also had enlarged adrenal glands and weakened immune system. He was puzzled. So this was not specific effect of ovarian extract, that was clear, but he didn't change the topic of research. Remember, he is a good scientist. He concluded that this is some sort of non-specific response of the body to generic unpleasantries. So he repeated the experiment and put these rats under different unpleasant, stressful conditions. Some in refrigerator, some on top of the cold environment, some in heated environment. So different conditions, different stressful conditions. During that time in 1930s, there was no ethical committee to look after these experiments. So he could have done everything which he wanted. So he conceptualized at the end that the body has a surprising similar set of responses, which he called general adaptation syndrome. And this response is activated in response to broad array of stressors. So when you experience stress or think about it, your body stops all long-term projects and concentrate on present to mitigate the problem at hand. So what it does, it rapidly mobilizes the energy from the storage sites. So storage sites are your muscles, and your liver store the energies. They are the energy source storage centers. So it will rapidly mobilize. To rapidly mobilize, it will increase the hormone glucagon and stop the production of insulin. So there will be a lot of glucose in your blood circulation, which will supply it to your muscles if you have to run. So your heart rate, your blood pressure, breathing will start increasing. All this is to transport nutrients and oxygen to greater rates. So to all the extremities, you need oxygen. So heart rate goes up. So your body will halt all the expensive building projects. No repair will be happening in your body. Digestion will be inhibited. And same goes for growth, reproduction. Both are expensive and optimistic things. So body is not trying to think about future. The present is important. Survive in the present and then think about future. So everything will be halted. Immunity is inhibited. Perception of pain is blunted. Remember, the zebra, his inners were opened out, but he was not feeling the pain because the body starts secreting the natural analgesic and you don't feel the pain. So this is what is happening in your body when you are dealing with a stressful situation or just thinking about a stressful situation. So this is in a way how our brain communicates with the rest of the body to bring back the homeostatic balance in the body. Walter Cannon, this guy, he is the second godfather of stress response, and he actually coined the term fight and flight response. So the principal way in which your brain can tell the rest of the body what to do is to send messages through the nerves that branch from the brain down your spine and out to the periphery of your body. If you look at this image here, this is your brain and it is connected to the spinal cord, and you have all the nerve endings which are connected to different organs of the body. So if a brain has to communicate to the body, it does through the nerve endings. So these nerve endings will secrete neurotransmitters, simply a chemicals which are secreted, and these chemicals act on different organs. So this process happens in like seconds. If you are thinking of a stressful situation, your heart will just go pump faster, your blood pressure will go up, and this will happen because this nerve impulses, they travel faster, so they have these effect very soon. So let's understand a little bit about the nervous system. So in our we have two different kind of nervous system, which is automatic, and one which is under our control. Consciously we can think and move a muscle, and which is a voluntary nervous system. And then the other one is involuntary, which is not in our control, also known as the autonomic nervous system. An autonomic nervous system is divided into two different parts. One is parasympathetic and sympathetic. So the sympathetic nervous system is the one which is your flight and fight freeze response, responsible for that. And on the other hand, the digest system is the parasympathetic. So they both are opposing to each other. So when you are in a stressful situation or thinking about one, your brain, your hypothalamus is the center which activates everything, sends message down to the nerve endings of the spine, and then they release hormones which act on these different organs. So your eyes, your pupil will dilate, your saliva will inhibit salivation, so your heart rate will increase, lungs will dilate faster, digestion will inhibit. So everything is happening in synchrony. And this is how the nervous system is controlling everything. So here, in case of females, besides flight or fight response, another response is activated, which is tend and befriend response. What is that? This was actually discovered by Selye Taylor. In 2000, she published this paper. Before that, we only knew about the flight and fight response, but females have different kind of hormones which react differently in terms of when we feel stressed. So that's the tend and befriend response. So tending involves nurturant activities designed to protect the self and offspring, that promote safety and reduce distress. Befriending is the creation and maintenance of social networks that may aid in this process. This is mainly governed by the hormone oxytocin, which when activated, uh, creates a bond between mother and child, and it's also like creates a bonding between lovers, and this is a hormone with a many different functions. But in stressful situation, this helps to uh, generate the stand and befriend response. So now this sympathetic nerve ending, which we discussed before, they release certain hormones. So as you can see in this picture, this is a very simple display of this. So here the spinal cord, this is connected to the adrenal glands. Adrenal gland sits just on top of your kidneys. So when the sympathetic nerve system is activated, so there will be a release of adrenaline or noradrenaline. So these are two related hormones. Adrenaline is also known as epinephrine, and noradrenaline also known as norepinephrine. You don't have to remember every word, and don't get overwhelmed by these terms. You don't have to remember everything. This is just a concept, overall concept, like how the body changes when we are under stress or we think about stress. So this will give you an idea that the things are not happening in vacuum. So all these changes are happening, which can lead, which activated for long period can lead to diseases. So here, as you can see, I've listed down the hormones which are activated, which gets activated. So adrenaline and non-adrenaline activates in seconds, and then it is taken over by glucocorticoids. So glucocorticoids are steroid hormones in our body, and these are the ones which take over the message of the sympathetic nervous system and carries it forward for hours and for months. And then you have glucagon, as I mentioned before. It will increase the blood circulation. It will increase the glucose production in the body. Prolactin, endorphins, vasopressin, all these get activated, and all the hormones responsible for reproduction and growth gets decreased. So estrogen, progesterone, insulin, growth hormones, everything down regulated, and the rest is up. So sympathetic arousal is a relative marker of anxiety and vigilance, while heavy secretion of glucocorticoids is more a marker of depression. So what are the long-term effects? We talked about the short-term effects. Now let's just go through the long-term effects. If you constantly mobilize energy at the cost of energy storage, you will never store any surplus energy. You will fatigue more rapidly, and your risk of developing a form of diabetes will even increase. The consequence of chronically activating your cardiovascular system are similarly damaging. If your blood pressure rises to 180 by 100 when you are sprinting away from a lion, you are being adaptive. But if it is 180 by 100 every time you see a mess in your teenager's bedroom, you could be heading for a cardiovascular disease. If you constantly turn off long-term building projects, nothing is ever repaired. How stress can lead to cardiovascular problems like heart attacks and strokes. I will go through the different things which can happen and can lead to the cardiovascular problem. So if you activate a stress response, you are increasing the blood pressure. A rapid rise in blood pressure will constantly pump through your arteries, and it will slowly decrease the permeability of your heart vessels. And this can lead to atherosclerosis. Then you will have increased inflammation because immunity is changing your Th1, Th2 balance, which we have in our body, the anti-inflammatory response and the pro-inflammatory response. This homeostatic balance gets disrupted. And so you have more inflammatory markers in the body, and inflammatory markers attract more immune cells in the body, and it will attract more immune cells to the damaged arteries, and atherosclerosis will happen. So stress also changes the pattern of blood clotting. So you will have more blood clotting, so more atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is just like deposition of fat in the arteries. So stress will also lead you to unhealthy behaviors. You will uh, incline more towards smoking or sleeping late or alcohol, which will also increase the chances of heart attacks, and it will also impact your heart rhythm. So if there is arrhythmia, which is irregular heart rate, so it all this all combined together can make you a person who is more getting a chance of cardiovascular diseases. But here it's important to note that not everyone who experiences stress will develop cardiovascular problems. However, chronic stress can increase the risk of these issues, especially in combination with other risk factors such as genetics, poor diet, and lack of exercise. So, managing stress through lifestyle changes and coping strategies can help reduce the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and other stress related problems. In the second part of the discussion, we will talk all about the stress management techniques. And these are the other things where long term stress can show its effects. So, now what are these stressors? So, it can come in different forms. And here I want to mention that stress is a highly personal is very highly personal, because we have to interpret a situation as stressful. So here is what personality comes into picture, like how you are dealing with stress, how you are how what are your coping strategies is, and everybody's stressful situation will be different. And that's why it's important to understand, and to understand these stress management techniques too. So, however, there are like common elements to situations that stress everyone. In fact, there is a universal recipe for stress, which can be abbreviated as NUTS. So, NUTS stands for something which is novel, unpredictable, threat to the ego, and when you think you are losing control. So, these are the four things in any situation. If you are, if these four things are common, you will feel stressful. That situation is novel to you. You don't have any sense of control. Unpredictable things can happen, and it's threat to your ego if your competence is questioned. So all this thing can make you stressful. Now, too much of stress leads to sympathetic overdrive, which is harmful. We have talked about the mechanism, what is happening in the body. Now, you must be thinking about like how to identify this chronic stress. What are the symptoms? So these are the symptoms which can tell you that you are under chronic stress. And like persistent physical symptoms such as headaches, muscle tension, you have digestive problems for no reason, your sleep is disrupted, then you are frequently ill, because as you can understand, immune system gets weakened, so you are frequently getting ill, cold and flu every time. Emotional changes, cognitive difficulties, because stress can also change your brain. It can decrease the prefrontal cortex, and it will help, then you will have problem making decisions, and you will have memory problems, concentration will get affected. The other things are changes in your behavior, relationship issues, declining work or school performance, loss of interest or enjoyment, because stress can decrease your dopamine signals. You will not feel motivated to do work, and dopamine is the hormone which is responsible for making you motivated or enjoy things in life. So feeling overwhelmed or helpless, this happens when you have a glucocorticoid level enhanced in your body, and it can lead to depression also. So these are the symptoms. Now let's get to the second part. So I don't want to depress you too much. There is a lot of things that stress can do to the body, but there is hope at the end of the tunnel. We have science-backed techniques which can be used efficiently to manage stress. Now let's get into that. So this is $1 million question. How do we cope with stress? In reality, we have two options: eliminate stress from life, which is impossible; learn to live with stress, which is possible. So this guy who is a expert, mindfulness expert, and also a neuroscientist, John Kabat-Zinn, says that you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. So to manage stress, keep in mind these principles and laws, that there are no easy solutions and there are no universal solutions, because stressors are different for everyone. So the laws are: a situation is only stressful if you interpret it as being stressful. For a situation to be stressful, you must feel it comprises novelty, unpredictability, a threat to your ego, or leaves you with a poor sense of control. This is why stress is an individual and highly personal phenomena, and what is the novel to you may not be novel to the others. The same thing here, and so there is no universal stress management techniques, but what works for you, just try that. So a couple of simple tricks that you can use to diminish your stress response very quickly. Learn to close the stress response loop. As you have understood that when you are stressful, you have a lot of energy in the body, lot of glucose in the circulation. And if you are actually dealing with a very stressful situation, your body will try to run or fight. But you are not doing this too often. When we are under daily stressful situation, we have to utilize this energy. So we have to find ways to close that stressful response loop, and we have to trick the brain to understand the situation and tell it that this is not a mammoth. Okay, this is not a very stressful response. We have to deal with the situation. So you have to foster a sense of control. And if mind body connection is there, if thinking about stressful situation is activating all that sympathetic nervous system functions, thinking a positive situation will activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So why not trick the brain to do the right thing for us? So use your mobilized energy. This is like, try to do something when you are very stressed. Like, try to use your energy in a very useful way. Go run or do some exercise, or just do jumping jacks if you don't have anything to do. So this will utilize the energy and will make you feel little less anxious, and will help you to calm the nervous system. So have fun. uh, this is just a simple thing, everybody knows about it, but it's difficult to have fun when you are stressed. So try this first two things. Try to give a positive feedback to your brain, try to utilize that excess energy, and then try to indulge in an activity. So this thing takes time, so you have to train your brain for dealing with a stressful situation. This is not something which you can do it like instantly. You have to train your brain. So brain is a kind of a muscle. You can train it. You can give it cues. You can make a protocol. It sounds silly, but it works. That you can make a protocol that if you are stressful, you do this thing, you think about this, and that makes you feel good. So if you start doing it, the brain will understand it so quickly that once you are thinking about it, your brain will start shutting down the sympathetic, activate the parasympathetic very soon, and you will not understand it. Breathwork and meditation are very important things if you can do it. If you are breathing deeply, uh, if you are inhaling and exhaling for a longer time, so these kind of exercises helps to activate the parasympathetic nervous system very soon. You can try it. It will happen like in 4 or 5 breaths you will feel in control. So yoga is also another way of activating the rest and digest mechanism, and it helps to rest. It helps to rest your sympathetic nerves. So now these are the short-term plans. Now, what is the long-term stress management, which we call as that mental immunity? Maintain social connections. A lot of research on this. This is the first thing which you can do. Invest in relationships with friends, family, and community members. Uh, for people who want healthy aging, this is the best thing you can do for you. Have a friend. You don't have to have many. You have to have just one person where you can rely on. You know that when you are stressed, when you want to cry, you have a shoulder to cry on. So this is the important thing. Invest in a relationship with friends, family, and community members. And actually, because there's lot of social media right now, so there was a paper which compared the social connections, like social friends to the real friends in person. So in person counts a lot if you want to deal with stress as compared to the social friends. So think that also. Then exercise regularly. Exercise helps to reduce the cortisol levels, improve mood, and enhance overall well-being. Cultivate healthy sleep habits. Sleep is the best thing you can do. It In sleep, actually, we are creating memories. We are cleansing all the bad stuff from the body. So it's important. Practice mindfulness and relaxation techniques. I've talked about this. This is very important if you can put it into a system in your daily schedule. So develop problem solving skills. You can have a system around it, like how you are dealing with the challenges, because challenges you cannot avoid, but if you know how to deal with it, it will reduce the stress and you will feel more in control. So maintain a healthy diet, a diet rich in fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, nuts is a good diet. and engage in activities you enjoy. Develop a third life, like a third, like besides your work schedule, you have to have something where you are investing in your activities which are making you happy. And cultivate optimism and gratitude. This is also another factor which is very important and scientifically studied a lot. uh, to cultivate gratitude by regularly reflecting on the things you appreciate. Learn to say no and set boundaries. Very important, another important aspect. And seek professional help if needed. If stress becomes overwhelming or unmanageable, consider seeking support from a mental health professional who can provide guidance and coping strategies. So you are not actually keeping yourself in a state where your glucocorticoid levels are high, because if that happens to change your brain physiology, then you are making yourself um, you're going towards depression, and if you go towards that, it's very difficult to come back. So correct that behavior early. So now I will end this from my side. I will end this talk by quoting Hans Selye, Godfather of stress physiology. Adopting a right attitude can convert a negative stress into a positive one. So he talks a lot about eustress, which is a good stress, and so we have to have a right attitude. So don't consider this just like a speech by a guru. So I have talked about this mind body connection, and the right attitude can have a lot of changes in your mind physiology, a lot of changes in the hormones which you are secreting, and the hormones which affecting the different organs. So there is a lot of science behind this concept, and it's very important concept. I end here and I open the meetup for questions. So what you can do, you can write